This video involves the bolded problems for Unit 2, Day 3, starting with 9.5, problems 1, 5, 9, and 13 on this page. What we're working on here is a continuation of problems that we worked on in the other video, where we're dealing with multiplying and dividing with positive and negative integers. And just to remind you, if you are multiplying or dividing, and division does include fractions, if the signs are the same, it's positive. A positive times a positive is a positive. A negative times a negative is also a positive. If the signs are mixed or different, the answer will be negative. So a negative times a positive is a negative. A positive times a negative is a negative. The same thing goes for fractions. If you're dividing a negative number by a negative number or a positive number by a positive number, then the answer will always be positive. If you're dividing a positive by a negative or a negative by a positive, the answer will be negative. So, and again, we'll talk a little bit about the generations with each level within the problems. So let's take a look at the first one. Here we have negative 15 divided by 5. The first thing I'm going to do is inspect, and I see I have a negative number and a positive number. So I'm going to say a negative divided by a negative, a positive, is a mixed, so that my answer will be negative. I'm going to work this left to right, and you would read it as 15 divided by 5 is 3, so my answer is negative 3. Here I have a negative divided by a negative, so my answer is positive. Read from left to right. 30 divided by 10 is 3, so my answer is positive 3. Again, same signs, positive, mixed signs, negative. In both cases we read from left to right. Here's another division problem set up as a fraction. And here I'm dividing a positive by a negative, so my answer will be negative. Mixed signs means negative. 3 goes into 12 4 times, so my answer is negative 4. Here's one that can be kind of tricky. We remember that 0 divided by any number is 0. And even though you have a negative number here, there's no such thing as positive 0 or negative 0 because it's nothing. So your answer here is just plain 0. And that's because if you think about it this way, negative 3 times 0 equals 0. So that's kind of tricky, but 0 is neither positive nor negative. Let's look at the next page of these. Here is problem number 33. This is a division problem. It's also a fraction. Same idea. We're going to handle the numerator first, and then we're going to do the denominator. Up here we're going to worry about order of operations, so that, remember, with PEMDAS, there's nothing to do in the parentheses, so I don't worry about that. There's no exponents. First I have to multiply and divide before I can add and subtract. So here I have a positive times a negative, so the answer will be negative. 6 times 7 is 42, so I have negative 42 plus, I have a positive times a negative, so my answer will be negative, and 3 times 2 is 6. And I know that 20 minus 4 is 16. So now I'm still looking at the more complicated part of the problem. Same sign, just combine. So negative 42 plus negative 6 would be negative 48. I'm combining. Divided by 16. And here I have a negative divided by a positive. So my answer will be negative. And 16 goes into 48 3 times, so the answer to all of this is negative 3. Again, being very careful and systematic, working with the numerator first, following your order of operations, and working down, and then in the very end, when it's as pretty simple as it's going to get, then doing your division work. Here are two more problems. This really shows you where order of operations is important, because that you can turn out with two very different things. So first, I'm going to take a look with order of operations. I'm going to take care of what's inside the parentheses first. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. They're both positive, so the answer is positive. So now I have negative 100 divided by 5. I have a negative divided by a positive, so my answer, they're mixed, so my answer will be negative. 5 goes into 120 times. Again, a negative divided by a positive, different signs means negative. Here's the same array of numbers, but they're arranged slightly differently. Here, because of order of operations, I'm going to handle what's in here first. And I have a negative divided by a positive, so my answer will be negative. 100 divided by 10 is 10, so negative 10. It's my first generation, divided by 2. And now my second generation, I have a negative divided by a positive, so my answer will still be negative. But 10 divided by 2 is 5. So you can see here, the first term was negative 100 divided by 10 divided by 2, but the way the parentheses are set up, I have two very different answers. So that's a good example of why we need to pay attention to order of operations. Here are a couple more problems. We're looking at estimating. So here I have negative 151 minus negative 49. And in my head I need to think, oh well, I have minus a minus is a plus. So, and negative 151 is about 150, and 49 is about 50, so different signs. So the difference of them is about 100, but it would be negative. So that will be answer B. Number 60 is also an estimation problem, and negative 151 divided by negative 49, a negative and a negative, same signs, means positive. That's almost 150, that's almost 50, so 150 divided by 50 would be 3, and again, because they're both negatives, my answer is 3. Which is letter C. And then here's the last one, and this is sort of a preview of what we're looking at. I know I was just harping on the idea of taking care of what's in the parentheses first, and you could do that. 3 plus 7 is 10, and 5 times 10 is 50. But when we distribute, distribute means to pass out evenly. So if I'm going to distribute, there's nothing between the 5 and the parentheses, so that means multiplication. So here I have 5 times 3, and I'm just going to write that as 5 times 3 plus 5 times 7. And I could leave it that way, or I could keep going. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 5 times 7 is 35, and lo and behold, they both add up to 50. So both ways will get you where you need to go. This, though, is a preview of things to come, so I want you to remember the idea of 5 times 3, 5 times 7, and then combining later. And that's the end of 9.5, Unit 2, Day 3.